Morning. So today is the session 4 of our programming in Python, and we are starting the second part of our revision tour of class 11th, that is actual programming in Python. Now in this particular session we will cover flow control, programming construct, sequential constructs, input and print statement. Here input is written in capital letter. Kindly ignore this. Input function is basically written in small letters, which we will cover later on. Now before coming to the flow control, I would like to discuss some additional part of multiple assignments. We have discussed assignment operator in previous session, but I would like to discuss here another angle of assignment operator, that is called multiple assignments. When you are working with a variable can be, multiple variables can be initialized simultaneously with the help of multiple assignments. That is basically, you can say you are declaring multiple variable with different values. So the two statements you can see, if you see here, these are the two statements: a is equal to b is equal to c equal to 10. Here we are specifying that a, b, c are the three variables, and all the three variables are referencing to the same common memory location which holds a value 10. Similarly, here we are saying a comma b comma c is equal to 10 comma 15 comma 25. That is, the value of a is 10, value of b is 15, value of c is 25. So here the values will be assigned sequentially to each variable. Okay. Now we are having a very common task, that is swapping of two numbers. Usually if there are two variables, say x and y, and we want to interchange the value of x and y with each other, like say x is 10, y is 20, and we want to say x becomes 10, x is 10 and y is 20, so x becomes 20 and y becomes 10. That is, the values are interchanged. Now to perform this particular task in other programming language, we usually perform this type of operation: t is equal to x, x is equal to y, y is equal to t. That is, the value of x will be assigned to t, then value of y will be assigned to x. It means y is transferred to x, and then the value of t, which was holding the previous value of x, is assigned to y. So in this particular way, y holds the value of x, so x and y are interchanged. So just to perform one particular operation, we have to write the three statement. But if we are supposed to perform the same operation in Python, so you can see the statement is quite easy. We simply say x comma y is equal to y comma x. That is, x is y and y is x. So in this way, the value of y is assigned to x and the value of x is assigned to y. So this is the beauty of Python assignment statement and Python programming, that in very least lines you can easily perform a complicated task. We will see similar type of things later also, like which we are performing in other programming languages are quite difficult, but when you are doing the same thing in Python, it's very easy. Now coming to the flow control. Now flow control is basically flow of the control of the program, how the program is executed, from which statement to which statement the program moves. That is called the flow control. The order of execution of a statement or instructions and or functions call in a program is called flow control. There are three types of flow control structures. These are sequential construct, selection constructs, and iteration or repetition construct. Sequential construct, where statements are executed one by one, the first statement, then second, then third, then fourth, and so on up to the last statement. So there is no diversion, there is no variation in the statement execution. A statement will be executed only when its previous statement got executed. So that is your sequential construct. Selection construct, you are having multiple paths, or you can say you are having branching in the program. Since you are having multiple branches and you have to select any one, that's why it is called selection construct. Now the selection of a particular branch or selection of a particular path of a program flow will be decided on a particular condition. If the condition is true, then you are performing one set of tasks, and if the condition is false, then you are performing another set of tasks. So this is called your selection construct. Then we are having iteration constructs, or usually repetition constructs, as the name stands for repetition or iteration. Here a particular task or set of tasks is being repeated again and again. So since you are repeating the task again and again, that's why it is called iteration construct, and it cannot be repeated forever, it cannot be repeated infinite times. So there must be certain conditions, there must be certain criteria that when to stop the repetition. So that is called the exit condition or iteration condition. So we will discuss about these things in detail when we will come to this particular topic. So starting with the construct, the sequential construct, execution of a statement line by line in order of their appearance. We are executing the statement one by one, the first statement, second statement, third statement, as they are appearing into the program. Okay, we are not jumping into the program from the statement 1 to statement 2 to statement 3 and so on. Flow of a program will be from first statement to second to third to and so on. Now this is a simple flow chart. If you see, this is a flow chart to find the sum of two numbers. So we want to find the sum of two numbers. So we started the program from start and then entered first number, input first number A, input second number B. A and B are two numbers. Then we added them. This is the process. These are the input. This is the process. C is equal to A plus B, and then the result is displayed to the user. That is print sum is C, and the program ends. So from first statement you will move to the second. These are the flow lines. Okay, these are the flow lines which show the flow of the program. So from start you will move to the first statement. Then after inputting you will move to the second statement. Once the input to the second number is provided, you move to the third statement. When the calculation is performed, you move to the fourth statement, and then the program ends. So this is your sequential construct. So in sequential construct you can see clearly we are having three things. Okay, the input, the process and the output. That is the sequence: the input, the process and the output. Then we are having selection construct, execution of group of statement based on a condition. As I had told you earlier also, there is a condition. If the condition is true, we will perform one set of operation, and if the condition is false, we will perform another set of operations. So this is if a condition is true, then one set of statements will be executed, and in case of false, in case of being false, the condition being false, another set of statements will be executed. So this is the program to find the largest of two number, you can see, and here start, then enter the first number, enter the second number. This is sequential if you see. Okay, but now here is the condition, the decision box we are having, the diamond symbol which is used for representing the decision box. So this is the decision box, and here is multiple branching, you can see. For rest of the symbols we are having one input and one output, but here we are having one input but two outputs. So branches are created at decision box. Okay, so is A greater than B? Now we are checking, we are comparing whether A, the value entered by U, is greater than the second number, the value entered by U. So is A greater than B? Now either this statement is true or this statement is false. If this statement is true, we will follow this particular path. Okay, and if the statement is false, then we will follow this particular path. So if A is greater than B, true, it means A is largest, then L becomes A, L is equal to A. But if it is false, L equal to B, L becomes B. And then we come to here, from both the path we come to this particular place, and this is print largest is L. Note it seems to be closed, but this is not a loop. Okay, here you are moving in this direction, here you are moving in this direction, so it is not a loop. If you see, you are moving in this direction and you are moving in this direction, it is not a loop. Okay, so this is your selection construct. So everything depends upon the condition. This is the condition, and here we are having the condition. If the condition is true, we will follow the true path. If the condition is false, we will follow the false path. Then we are having the iteration or repetition constructs. Usually it is called iteration constructs, but just to keep reminding you that this is the repetition where we are repeating the task again and again, that's why I'm referring it to repetition constructs. Execution of group of statements again and again, repeated execution of same computer code multiple times, you can say. Okay, so this is called when you have to perform one particular task again and again. Like just take an example, say I had made a program to find the sum of two numbers, but I want to make a program to find sum of four numbers. So what we exactly going to do? We ask a number add the number, ask another number, add the number, ask another number, add the number, ask another number, add the number. So asking the number and adding the number, this is the process which we are repeating again and again. So here I had made this particular flow chart to show you the iteration or repetition construct. You can see you are having start, then we are having two variables, I is equal to 1, which is our counter here, and s is equal to 0, the sum we want to calculate. So we are initializing it. Then we are having a condition, I is less than equal to 4. It means whether I is less than equal to 4. You know very well I is right now 1. So of course 1 is less than equal to 4, true. So when you true, you will follow this part. Just see the arrow lines. You will follow this part. And then from here, you will move to again here. So this is the portion which will be repeated again and again. This is the portion which will be repeated again and again. We will repeat this particular part again and again. These two statements or these three statements will be executed again and again. But when the condition is false, then you will exit. You will not enter into the loop, but you will exit from the loop. So here are two things. The condition, you see there is a condition, and when this condition is false, then you exit from the loop. So this conditions is called your exit criteria. This is called your exit criteria or exit condition, when you will exit from the program. And these are the statements which are going to be repeated. The statement 1, statement 2 and statement 3. These are the three statements which are going to be repeated again and again. So this is called your loop body. So the set of codes being repeated again and again is called loop body, which is controlled by the condition, their execution or their repetition or number of repetition actually going to be happen. That is controlled by the condition, and that condition is known as exit condition. So here what happens? We start the program. Initially the value of I is equal to 1. Right now I is equal to 1. Sum is equal to 0. We enter into the loop. How? Is 1 less than equal to 4? Yes, we were talking about this particular program and the flowchart was wrong. So I had corrected the flowchart now. So if you see, we start the program. So when we start the program, now we are having I, a variable I, and its initial value is 1. At the same time we are having a variable s and its initial value is 0. Now we come to here, is I less than equal to 4? What is value of I? 1. Is 1 less than equal to 4? Yes, 1 is less than equal to 4. We move here. It says enter a number. So you enter a number. You can enter any number. So say our n, and we assume the number is 5. So now it says s is equal to s plus n. The value of s is 0, you can see here, and value of n is 5. So s is equal to s plus n. 0 plus 5 is 5, and I is equal to I plus 1. I is equal to I plus 1, so I becomes 2. And then the flow lines, if you see the flow lines, you move here. So when you move here, you come to this particular place, and this is what? Again condition. What is I now? I is 2. Is 2 less than equal to 4? Yes, true. Again enter a number. Suppose this time I enter number 7. Sorry. Say I enter number 2. N is equal to 2. So s is equal to s plus 2. 5 plus 2, that is 7. And I is equal to I plus 1, that is 3. Now your I is 3. Again you move to the same place. Is 3 less than equal to 4? Yes. Again enter a number. Suppose I enter a number, this time suppose 9. So what is this? S is equal to s plus n, that is 7 plus 9. So 7 plus 9 is 16. And I is equal to I plus 1. I becomes 4. I becomes 4. Is 4 less than equal to 4? Yes. Again 4 is less than equal to 4. So enter number. Suppose this time I enter number 14. So s is equal to s plus n. 16 plus 14. That comes to be 30. I is equal to I plus 1. Your I becomes 5. And now is 5 less than equal to 4? No, 5 is not less than equal to 4. So now this time you will follow this path. You exit from the loop. This loop was executed again and again. This loop was executed again and again, and you exit from this particular loop. So when you exit from the loop, it says sum is 30. Okay, this is the sum of the numbers you entered. What are the numbers you enter? 5, 2, 9, 14, the 4 numbers. So this is the program to sum 4 numbers. So the task is being repeated, and this is what we call iteration construct. Clear? So now coming to the types of Python statements. In Python programming, we are having 3 types of statements: empty statement, simple statement, and compound statement. We have discussed all these 3 statements in class 11 also. Empty statements doing nothing. If you want to do nothing in a particular part of a program, then the statement will be pass. It is a reserved word, you can say pass. And when you write pass, it means the interpreter will do nothing, just move forward. It will move forward. Okay? So statement doing nothing, that is pass. This statement does nothing and pass the control to the next statement. You will move to the next statement. If you write pass 2 times, you will move to the third statement, and so on. So next is simple statement, a single executable statement. Like most of the statements we are writing in Python is simple statement, like a is equal to input, enter number. Okay? So we want to input something in that particular case. And then we are having compound statement. Compound statement is group of statement, or precisely it is a block of statements. It is a block. A block is a compound statement. And how to identify a block? Block begins with a colon sign. If you see, there is a colon sign and there is a colon sign. It means this is one block of a statement and this is another block of statement. This is called if block and this is called else block. We require block at various places. Like this is selection construct. In selection construct we require if else elif block. Similarly, in iteration construct we require a for block or we require a while block. If you are making a function, we require a function block. Sometimes within a block you require another block, that is called nested blocks. So wherever blocks are required, the 2 things you have to always remember. The first thing, the beginning of the block. A block always begin from colon sign. The moment you put a colon sign, that means you specify that from here a fresh block is starting. And the moment a block starts, you have to provide an indent, a gap, a spacing from the left margin. Okay, if you are not providing proper indent, then the statement will generate the error. If I write print from here, from this particular position, it will generate error because block has started. Since the block has started, I have to provide an indent. Clear? When the block ends, how the interpreter will know that this is the end of a block? When your indent comes back, when you come to the previous position on the margin, then it will be end of the block. Like a block started from here and the block ended here because here your indent has terminated. Similarly, a block started from here and ended where? Say wherever you end it. Okay? Right now you are not ending, so this is block continued. So these are the compound statements. So in compound statement, indents play very important and vital role, which you have to always remember. Now coming to the sequential construct, as I had told you, sequential construct very simple. There is sequence, and in the sequence we perform 3 operations: the input, the process, and the output. Now for input, we use the input statements, the input function, basically not a statement, input function. We will refer the input function of string class. Earlier when people were using Python 2.7, like we are referring Python 3.0 and 3.7 basically. So earlier when the people were referring Python 2.7, they using raw input function. So if somewhere in the books or somewhere in the computer programs you find raw input, so don't get confused. Raw input means input for our Python. So you can use input there. So input statement, these input are processed, that is the expression. We have read all the functions, we had gone through all the functions, all the operators. So we will use all these operators here to perform our operation, and then the output, the result of the program is displayed. So to display the result, we will use the print statement. So sequential construct consists of 3 statements: input, the required value with the help of input function, calculate the required output and intermediate output, whatever outputs and intermediate outputs required, calculate using the operators, expressions and all these things, and display the output with the help of print function. So this is your sequential construct. So starting with the input, it is used to accept input from the user. Input function is basically string function. This function returns a string which can be further processed for storing or converting to some other data type. The syntax is very easy. Input in small letters, and within the bracket you can see the things. Prompt string is written in square brackets. When something is written into square brackets like this in syntax, it is called optional. It means within brackets you can provide no argument, or you can provide one string argument. Okay, we can use it in two ways. Just see, we can use it in two ways. Say suppose I am saying a is equal to input. Okay, why I am saying a is equal to input? If I am not writing a is equal to input, so whatever I will enter with the keyboard, that will not is stored into anywhere. So I want to store my input into a variable a, whatever input I am going to provide. So if I say a is equal to input, you can see your program halted, cursor blinks. Now that means I have to provide an input. So I am writing 10 and it has been stored. Now this 10 is not a number. This 10 is not a number, it is a string. You can see here, if I type a, so it shows you 10 into apostrophes in single quotes. That is, it is a string, it is not a number. If you want to use it as a number, you have to convert it. Similarly, I can write b is equal to input, say enter another number. Now this is the prompt. Earlier I had not provided any prompt, but this time I am providing a prompt. It is a string. Prompt is a string. That's why in syntax we have written prompt string. So this message will be displayed, and after this message you will enter a number. So you press enter another number. Now this time suppose I am writing 120. So this is number, but again it is not a number, it is a string. You can see 120 is also a string. So this is how you can enter the input. So input is the keyword, you can say, you are using here, and within the brackets you have to specify the prompt string. It is optional, entirely optional. You want to give prompt strings, you can give. You don't want to give prompt strings, you can ignore. Okay. If you are not giving any prompt string, you will not get any message. The computer will halt and you will have to provide an input. And if you give a prompt string, the prompt message will be displayed first. What is your name, like here, and then your program will halt and you have to provide the input from the keyboard. Always remember, the input command, the input function gives you a string as an input. Okay, it will give you, whether you are entering a name or you are entering a text or you are entering something else, it will treat the entire character sequence as a string, and later on you have to convert it into integer, float, or whatever you want. So this is what all the methods I am using. Say suppose you want to enter a text, so you will be writing name is equal to input, enter your name. So whatever you will enter, that will be your age. If suppose I want to enter an integer number, so I am saying age is equal to int, within the bracket, input, enter your age. So this is the prompt, enter your age, this is the prompt. This is your prompt. The prompt will appear and you will enter the age. Say suppose you are entering an age 18. This string, enter the age, means this string, you know, input will gives you a string. So this string will be converted to integer and it will be stored into the variable. Similarly, if you want to enter a float number, say enter your salary, you will convert it into a float. If suppose you want to enter multiple values together at a time, then you can use the split function. Like this is I am using marks is equal to input, enter your marks of 5 subjects separated by space, and then I am splitting it on blank space. Okay, so this will be, this is I am entering multiple values, and multiple values, these multiple values will be stored into what? Into a list. It will be stored into a list. List of what? List of strings, not list of integers. List of strings, because input gives you string. Similarly, if you want to separate it by comma, then you can, in place of blank space, you can use comma in split function. Split is a function which is available from string library. Okay, so if we try it, say name is equal to input, enter your name, okay, say Pawan, then age is equal to int input, enter your age, say 50, then salary is equal to, say float, input, enter your salary, say 98,050. I'm just representing a float value, so this is not my salary. Then say marks, input, enter 5 marks separated by space, and I want to split. So as a separator I am using blank space. So now this is, say 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. These are the 5 marks. And similarly, say friend, say friend's name, input, enter friend's name, separated by comma, separated by comma, say Amit Kumar, comma Rahul Dev Burman, comma Rajesh Khanna, etc. And now if I print, say print, suppose I want to print name, say print, then name will be printed. If I say print marks, you see marks will be printed. So what is marks? Marks is a list, square brackets, it is in closing square. Marks is a list of strings. Similarly, if I say print, say salary, so this is the salary. So this is how. Or if we say print, rather say print, leave it, say simply say friend. So friend is a list, but how the list is created, you can see Amit Kumar, this is just one string. Why? Because this is separated by comma, not by space. Okay, otherwise if I splitted it by space, so Amit was one friend, Kumar was another friend, Rahul was another friend, Dev was another friend. But here Amit Kumar is one friend, Rahul Dev Burman is another friend, Rajesh Khanna is another friend, and so on. So this is how you can use the input statement. So this is what the same thing I have represented here. If you want to see it, you can. Now the print is your output function, very important function. You will not have any program where we are not using the print. If you are generating certain result, then you have to show this result also. If you are not showing that particular result, then it will be, the program will be basically useless, you can say. So you have to display the result, so you will be using the print function. The print function, this is the complete syntax of a print function. Seems little bit complex to you, but you need not to bother for this thing. This is basically, you can say, for you there are three important things. The first is objects. What exactly you want to print? you can have one value which you want to print, or you can have multiple values which you want to print. Now these value can be literals, that is constants, we have already discussed. They can be an expression, can be formula, or some other things also you want to print. So that's why we are referring them here objects. Okay, so you can have n number of values, n number of items, n number of expressions, n number of constants which you want to print. So you will be having in the beginning. After that you will be having separator. Okay, the sap is the argument which you have to refer as it is separator, and equal, after equal sign you are getting a value. This is a blank space. So this is the default separator. By default the separator is blank space. It means in between two objects. This is the objects we are saying. If you are printing multiple objects, so in between two objects you will be get a blank space as separator. Then end. What will happen at the end of the print statement when all the objects will be printed? What happened? This will be printed. It means line will be changed. Line will be changed means your next print statement will be printed from the fresh line. So this is the new line. And print statement will be ended with /n. If you want to change it, you can change it. Then where your output will appear, like the name of file, here we are specifying the output will appear onto the standard output screen, that is onto your monitor. And flush false, it means it will not clean the previous output. Previous values will be as it is there, and it will add the next values. So the print function is used to print the output on the screen or onto the file. We are right now working with the screen. Objects are the values to be printed separated by the comma. Okay, by default separator, sap is the separator to be used between multiple objects being printed. The default is blank space. It means you will get blank space between multiple values. And is the value which is printed after the values are printed. All the values are printed, sorry. The default is new line /n. Line is changed, so next print will be printed from a fresh line. These are the examples you can say name, age, height. Name is Pawan, age is 50, height is 165.5 centimeter. So we are saying print name, so simply name is printed Pawan. If I say print name comma age, two values I am saying, print name comma age. So name is Pawan space, you know separator, the separator was blank space, so separate space 50 the age. Print name is comma name comma separator is equal to star. Now name is, this is what, this is a literal constant and this is a variable. Okay, so name is, and then separator is asterisk sign. So name is, we are not getting blank space here, we are getting asterisk sign. Name is star and nm is what, Pawan. Then print name comma age comma height comma separator is equal to hash. Here separator is hash, so name Pawan hash age 50 hash 165.5. Then print name comma age comma end is equal to double star. End is equal to double star means the separator is by default what, blank space. So name is Pawan, age is 50, in between them there is a blank space, and end, now the line is not changed but 2 star is printed at the end of the print statement. When all the objects have been printed, name and age, all the objects have been printed, at the end it will print 2 double star. And then the next statement, print height is, it will come at the same location, height is, then again blank ht blank space, that is your separator, st 165.5. I forgot to write here 0.5, 165.5 centimeter. So this is how you can use the print statements. There is another way of print statements also, that is called format method. Strings can be printed with the help of str format function. Now this is, you can say I am having two variable name and age, and I want to print Pawan and 50. Say I want to print my name is Pawan and age is 50. So in place of printing the values, what I am doing, I am using the curly brackets, and after this I am using the format function dot format, and the values I want to print name comma age. It looks like little bit confusing, so we start from the fresh example. Say suppose name is equal to Pawan, age is equal to 50. I want to print my name is Pawan, age 50. So I will use print my name is, then comma name. My name is, I want to print my name, then again, and age is, then age. This is what I will do. Okay, the four things I am printing. My name is one string, name is a variable, and age is another string, age is a variable. So this is, it will print my name is Pawan and age is 50. With the format function, I can do the same thing into one statement. I will write my name is, the curly brackets, and age is the curly bracket. This is my string. My name is blank, you can say dash, and age is dash, dot format. And within the format, I will specify the my first value is name and the second value is age. My name is Pawan and age. If I say write the same thing like this, print my name is, say, NM, comma, sorry, and age is AG, dot format, NM is equal to name, AG is equal to age. My name is Pawan and age is 50. Here the name is NM and the age is AG. So you will see what is the difference between this statement and this statement. So now you can see the difference. Now you can see the difference. The difference is the first value is name and the second value is age. But I want to print the first value here first. I want to print the second value as first and first value as second. My name is 50 and age is Pawan. Both the things have been interchanged. This is what, say, greet, title, name. Now this is what format name, comma is. I can use the subscript also. I can use 01 indexes also. The same thing can be performed with the help of, without using name age variable. The same thing can be performed with the help of subscript also. Like I can write here 0, I can write here 1. This is the 0 and this is the 1. My name is, so 01 subscript. Now subscript can also be changed. Similarly, I can have, like this is this statement. If you see, print greet, title, name. I want to print greeting, title and name. Like greeting like Mr. Good morning, good evening. Title like Mr. Mrs. Name like whatever the name of the person. And age is, then I want to display the age. Format name, Amit, title and Mr. Okay. Name is Amit, title is Mr. Greet is good morning. And when I execute this statement, the output will be good morning Mr. Amit. Okay. Ignore this particular part. This is just has to be removed. Okay. So you can say name is Amit. This is overridden. This name is overridden here, and this is what you are getting. So this is with the help of format statement. Similarly, we are having a C style printf formatted print statement also in C programming language. People were using formatted printing with the help of printf or sprintf statement. So similar type of statement can be used. If you see here, r is equal to int input, enter the radius, we enter the radius, then we print a is equal to 3.14 into r to the power 2, okay, pi r square. Now print the area of circle with radius r is a. Suppose I'm doing this particular thing. This is, you can say, simple. I want to make a program to find the area of a circle. So how we will start with, say, r is equal to int input, enter radius. Say you entered the radius as r. Area is equal to 3.14 into r square, like power operator. So area has been calculated. Then you want to print the area of circle with radius r is a. So the area of circle with radius 10 is 314.0. But if I want to format it further, like say in place of displaying it 10, it should display 010, like 3-digit number, and here it should display 314.0. So in that particular case, I can use the C style printf. So the whole thing will be same, just we will make here, say since I want to display an integer, I will write %d. Since I want it to be preceded by 0, so I will write 0, and 3-digit number I want, so 03d. And then is, then area. For area I want to use a float number, and I want to use 2 decimal places, so I had written 0.2 f. And after this I will put a space, a percentage sign, and within the bracket, say since 2 values are required, so I will enter the 2 values. The first value is radius and the second value is area. So you can see it is not printing 10, it is printing 010, and it is not printing 314.0 as earlier, it was printing 314.00. So this type of formatting, if you want, then you can use these type of notations. So syntax is very easy. You have to display your message, whatever message you want to display. Within the message, the values you want to format, you will provide the values which you want to format, like here, and after that you will put a percentage sign and then the values you actually want to print within the bracket. Okay, so what is the syntax of this percentage? Is divided into 4 parts: percentage, then flag, you can use flag, minus, plus, space, hash, 0, like I had used 0 in my example. Then you can specify width, that is how many characters you want, like 0d, 3d, if you remember, 0, 3. Then precision, if you are working with fractional numbers, and specifier like D for decimal, C for character, I for integer, E for exponent, that is fractional number, that is also fractional number if you want to represent them in scientific notation. F for float number we have used, O for octal, U for unsigned, X for hexadecimal, capital X for also for hexadecimal, and S for string. So this is how you can use these things. Just see here, like I am using printf percentage hash 80. Okay, so hash 80, what it means basically, just I want to say that I want a 8-digit number with which has to be represented in octal. Here O stands for octal, 8 stands for width, and the hash means that with the number I want to show that it is an octal number. So you know how an octal number is used in Python? It is preceded by 0 O. So this 1 2 3 4 will be printed as octal. This is the equivalent octal of 1 2 3 4 decimal, and it is preceded by 0 O, and the total width is 8 digit. Okay, total width is 8 digit. So since the by default the space is taken as a padding, that's why it is not visible here, but if you use some other symbol, then that can be shown here also. So this was your printf, or sorry, print statement in C style. So this is the assignment you have to do for tomorrow. You have to write a Python program to find sum of 2 numbers. Again, a Python program to find the area and circumference of a circle. Python program to convert temperature from degree centigrade to degree Fahrenheit. The formula is given, and Python program to calculate compound interest of deposit using the formula this and this. Okay, everything is very much clear. So please make these programs and Once the program is completed, WhatsApp me so that I can check it. So this is the end of session 4. Tomorrow we will start with session 5, and in session 5 we will discuss about selection constructs and iteration constructs. It will not be finished within one session only. Say we will take 2-3 sessions for completing if else, if elif, then for statement, then various segments of for with range, with in function and all these things, and then we will cover with while, break, continue. So many statements we have to cover into these constructs. So it will not be just a part of one session, it will cover more sessions, but we will cover it also in detail. So thank you students, and hope you are getting everything from the videos. In case of any problem, please feel free to ask me and utilize your holidays.